So I was gonna look up like the theories about Yummy, and with all of the stuff going on in the news right now, those theories found me. So I'm pretty sure that you're talking about Yummy being like a dog whistle of like from Justin to the people about the shit going on with Diddy with the files and all of that. And I'm aware that Diddy and the files are two separate things, but also like they're just the god, like the worst of fucking humanity. And I think like logically I could see how a pop star would try and draw attention to like the dark underbelly of their industry with the medium that they know how to use. Like I there's a part of me that understands that, but there's also a part of me that just has been really uncomfortable with a lot of the theorizing about like the stuff going on with Diddy and the files and all of that, because like it reminds me of the stuff going on with that was going on with QAnon like a few years ago. So, for those of you who were lucky enough to not have to deal with the QAnon discourse that has been percolating online since around 2016 and really, really came into prominence around 2020, 2021, QAnon was like this granddaddy conspiracy theory that kind of folded in all the conspiracy theories. And it sounds, in hindsight, especially with all the stuff going on with Epstein, that like it sounds like they were actually onto something when it came to like the elites being part of like, you know, like a ring of awful crime doers. There's also like this element of like the economy collapsing and we should all like, you know, cash out our 401ks and invest them in gold and speculative cryptocurrency. There was also the thing about like the 10 days of darkness, which we're going to get there. I have a story about that. And part of it was like this whole thing about like all of the Democrats and all of the elite, because the elite was like a catch-all word for Democrats at this point. The elite were essentially running like a pedophilic trafficking ring out of like part of it. Like it started with like the pizzeria, and like the pizzeria, like there wasn't like they were running it out of the basement of a pizzeria, and the pizzeria didn't have a basement, and then someone came and shot up the pizzeria, and the pizzeria didn't have a basement, and he still believed that there was a basement full of kids in there. Like insanity. It wasn't even just that, you know, they did bad things to children. It was they're stealing children to eat their brains so that they could harvest the adrenochrome out of the fear of the children. Like this was an actual thing. Before you ask me, but Christine, how do you know so much about this? I had a coworker who was at the time who was genuinely into this shit, and it made for the most terrifying work experience, especially in early 2021. Like I wasn't involved with this movement. I don't like this movement at all, but because I was trying to keep up with what this lady was saying to me, I would come into work and it would just be nonsense after insanity after craziness, that I was like, okay, like I need to be like on top of this stuff. So I was actually like sort of following this news, and even like any proximity to this, even if you're trying to disprove it, will fuck you up. QAnon has largely fallen out of favor because like they're wrong. They're wrong about everything. And if anything, like their leader, like their Q was like the people who run 8kun, and 8kun is like just the embodiment of everything that's wrong with the internet and wrong with people. So I hadn't thought about QAnon in like a little bit, except to like, you know, tell my fucked up QAnon stories if somebody asked me. Then the stuff with Diddy broke, and then the stuff with Epstein broke, and now the files have been released. And now we've got people on TikTok screaming about politicians abusing and eating kids. And at that point, I went, wait a minute. Because now we sound like QAnon, like the liberals sound like QAnon. And at that point, I'm starting to get scared. As much as I want to see these motherfuckers who did all this shit see justice, as much as I want to see the victims get as much justice as they can from this awful fucked up situation, I do think that we need to stop theorizing so much about all of this stuff, because one, I think it's bad for our brains. I think if QAnon has proven anything, I think it's theorizing about the worst crimes that a person could do to another person, let alone a child, will fuck you up in ways that you will that you can't get back, you know? Like, I wasn't even like actively involved in like the QAnon community. I just wanted to keep abreast of what they were saying so that I could maintain my sanity at work. And it still messed with my brain, and it still hurt me in ways that, like, I'm hearing about all this stuff today and I'm immediately back to where I was in 2021. But to bring it back to Bieber, I honestly hope that he's having a good day today. One, I do think that his current album, like the one that like is rolling out, went to the Grammys and all that. I do think that it's much better than it's being given credit for. But I also know that he's been through hell. He's also like done some fucked up things, but like in hindsight, like clearly he's been through some shit. Hopefully he just finds peace, you know? I keep saying like I have one more thing to say, but I truly have one more thing to say now. I think with all the theorizing, like the theorizing about like the stuff that happened on like Epstein's Island and with Diddy and all of that, I think it lends credence to QAnon, but while also not really holding them accountable for like saying all this shit, but then not condemning it now that it's coming from their dear leader. Like, they got to pretend that they cared about kids and their well-being and all of that when they thought it was just Bill Clinton or, you know, Democrats and like people they didn't like on that island. But now that it's like, oh, Trump's been in the files like a bajillion times and it's basically just Republican City down there. Now it's like they're trying to deny that he's in there, and I'm just like, was this ever about the kids? I don't think that it was. And I think theorizing about like what's in those files and like again, what's in them is bad enough. We do not need to embellish upon them. I just think that it lends credence to this kind of thinking, and this thinking, like the QAnon thinking, is just super destructive and super awful and super icky. And I don't know. I've just been really uncomfortable with like the theorizing discourse about this stuff. And like maybe Yummy is part of it, maybe it's not. At the end of the day, I hope Justin Bieber has as much peace as can be afforded to him as he can possibly have. I hope that he's having a good day. I really do.